Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And this is the prediction show for the Saints Week 12 matchup. The New Orleans Saints go to Levi Stadium in Santa Clara to take on the San Francisco 49ers. And this game should be a very interesting game for the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints coming off a victory last week versus the Los Angeles Rams. And now they focus their attention to another NFC West team, and that is the 49ers. Now, the 49ers beat the brakes off the Arizona Cardinals on Monday night. Jimmy Garoppolo throwing for 4 touchdowns, and the game was not close at all. It seems like the San Francisco 49ers are starting to get their stride. Jimmy Garoppolo has been playing really, really well. You have to think about the additions of Christian McCaffrey. He's coming on to the team. He's starting to get a little bit more acclimated with the playbook. And they have playmakers on the defensive side of the ball as well as the offensive side of the football as well. The New Orleans Saints, they came alive against the Rams. We've seen some guys step up. We've seen some playmakers get involved. Some questions that we've been asking for weeks. Why isn't Alvin Kamara more involved? Why isn't Taysom Hill more involved? Why aren't you getting the ball into the hands of Chris Olave? He's really stepping up. Well, the Saints did that last week, and it all came together. And they put forward one of their best offensive performances all season long. But it's going to take a little bit of an effort similar to what they did against the Rams in order for them to be competitive versus the San Francisco 49ers. I got a little bit of the tail of the tape here between both of these teams. Points per game, the Saints average 22.6, 49ers average 23.6. Points allowed per game, the Saints allowed 24.3, 49ers 17.3. Total yards, the Saints 371.5 to the 49ers 372.5. Yards passing, 253.8 to the 49ers 245.3. Yards rushing, 117 to 127. And you have yards allowed 346 to 305. So both of these teams are pretty good at executing. They're pretty good at doing some things in order for them to generate points. The 49ers have been a little bit more successful than the New Orleans Saints. And you have to look at head coach Kyle Shanahan, his ability to be able to create different type of run styles. We all know what the 49ers like to do. They like to impose their will. They're a physical football team. They're unapologetically physical, and they want to wear you down. And that's where a lot of these finesse teams, that's where, they have problems. So we seen in the playoffs last year, the 49ers versus the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers, more of a finesse team. 49ers want to hit you in the mouth, and we've seen how that turned out, right? The 49ers want to continue to do that. They want to do it with running back Elijah Mitchell, the former Raging Cajun out of Louisiana Lafayette. He's been having a really good season. He's been running the ball a little bit more effective than that of Christian McCaffrey. I don't think it has anything to do with Christian McCaffrey, but more so Elijah Mitchell is more acclimated to the playbook, and he's more familiar with what the 49ers are doing. And then also you have to mention the chemistry that he already has by being there longer than Christian McCaffrey. But that doesn't mean Christian McCaffrey can't do different things. We seen Christian McCaffrey throw a touchdown a couple weeks ago. We seen him catch the ball out of backfield for a long run a couple of weeks ago. So Christian McCaffrey is indeed a weapon. And not to mention Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver out of Arizona State a couple of years ago, had a little bit of some trouble, a little bit of some slump, so to speak. But it seems like he's coming on. He's got about 547 yards and 6 touchdowns this season and about 40-plus receptions. So he's definitely becoming that go-to guy for the 49ers and that deep threat that Jimmy Garoppolo has when he wants to take the top off the defense. And then you look at Deebo Samuels, whose status is in question as of the making of this video. He's dealing with a hamstring issue, and he's questionable for the game. Now, if I'm a betting man, I'm pretty sure that Deebo is probably going to play, and I don't need to tell anybody what this dude can actually do. This dude is basically Cordero Patterson on steroids. Like, seriously. Not to indicate that he is, but I'm just saying this for effective reasons. This guy is a big physical guy. He can do so many different things, and he's a beast. And we know that the Saints have to be aware at where Deebo Samuels is on the field at all times. And that leads us back to Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy who wasn't supposed to be the starting quarterback this season. They were going to go with Trey Lance. The 49ers were going to go with their top 5 pick, and Jimmy G, who was coming off of shoulder surgery, were just going to sit on the side. But, of course, Trey Lance hurts himself. He's out for the season. In comes Jimmy Garoppolo, already has that chemistry with his team. His teammates love him, and he's out there balling. And, Jimmy Garoppolo, some games he may look like the second coming of Joe Montana, and then other games he looks like he's the second coming of Stoney Case. I mean, a lot of up and down, but when Jimmy G is on, he's on, all right? And then you flip to the defensive side of the football for the 49ers. You got Nick Bosa. I mean, a big physical guy that can get to that quarterback really, really quickly. We know the Saints are dealing with some offensive line issues. Might get a couple guys back that was missing last week, a couple guys that were injured and gave it a go last week. They'll probably they'll be a little bit better going into this game, but that still does not mean that Nick Bosa can't get into the backfield. That still does not mean that this dude cannot get to the quarterback. Eric Armstead is a guy who was supposed to give it a shot today, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like he's dealing with an injury as well. But we have to look at, this defensive line of the 49ers. I mean, these guys can't get to the quarterback. I mean, it's not like one of these guys where we got to focus on one guy. All of these guys have the capability of getting to the quarterback. That includes linebacker Fred Warner, who has been an all-pro in years past. I mean, a guy who is the 49ers version of DeMario Davis. He can fly around the field, and he can get to the quarterback as well. That is why Andy Dalton has to replicate what he did last week. I mean, normally, quarterback has to get the ball out of his hands around 3 seconds. He did it maybe like in 2 seconds last week because of Aaron Donald. You got to be having the same mind frame going into this game this week, okay? These wide receivers of the New Orleans Saints have got to get out of their breaks quickly in order for Andy Dalton to get them the ball. I mean, we seen Chris Olave do it last week. The other wide receivers need to do it as well. They need to get the ball out of Andy Dalton's hands pretty quickly because those 49ers defensive players can indeed hunt. As far as the secondary, we know about Jimmy Ward, also the 2 Wards, the wide receivers. I mean, not the wide receivers, but the cornerbacks out there, Jimmy Ward and Shavivius Ward. Both of these guys are really good. You have Jimmy Ward, who is playing more in the nickel as of right now. He's been effective there. And Ward last week going up against DeAndre Hopkins, we know that they had a little bit of a back and forth, but this guy is up to the challenge, and he's definitely going to be up to the challenge going up against Chris Olave. The Saints, offensively, what do they have to do to be competitive in this game? Well, once again, they got to get the ball out of Andy Dalton's hands quickly, right? You got to get the ball out of his hands quickly because these guys on the 49ers team can hunt. Also, you cannot shy away from the running game. I understand that the 49ers can be a little bit physical, and they can indeed stop the run, but that does not mean that you have to shy away from it. And we all know that the New Orleans Saints sometimes, if it's maybe 2 or 3 plays and they're not effective, then you never see those plays again. you cannot fall in love with the sprint. You got to fall in love with the marathon. And what I mean by that is you can't just get upset at the fact that if you get a ball to Alvin Kamara, he doesn't shoot off for 20 yards. Okay, you got to fall in love with the marathon, meaning you have to get a ball into the hands of Alvin Kamara, get a ball into the hands of Taysom Hill. If they're getting 2 yards, if they're getting 3 yards, if they're getting 4 yards, you have to be able to stay patient with the running game as long as this game can allow you to do so. And, that's going to open up opportunities for the play action, as well as around the third or the fourth quarter, the defense of the 49ers can get worn down because you're constantly running into them, even though they are stopping the run. So you have to fall in love with the marathon and not just be looking for the sprint, so to speak. So that is what the Saints going to have to do. Also, some of these other wide receivers are going to have to indeed step up. I expect, Juwan Johnson, who has been coming on as of late. We've been seeing him make plays, but guess who else has seen him make plays? The other team. And who did I just mention that they moved into the nickel? Jimmy Ward, one of their best cornerbacks that they have on their team. So they're probably going to have him shadowing Juwan Johnson because Juwan Johnson has been very, very effective at getting those first downs in the red zone. They're probably going to put Jimmy Ward on Juwan Johnson. And then you have Chris Olave, who is going to be matched up with Shavivius Ward. And then you also have some of these other guys out here who hasn't got the ball. I don't know what's going on with Callaway. I don't know if he's in a coach's doghouse. I don't know if he's showing up late to practice. I don't know what's going on, but it seemed like to me that somebody is upset with him and it's affecting him. It's almost similar to, I don't know if y'all remember this, but back in 2017, when I want to say Willie Snead got into some trouble off the field. Willie Snead before then, he was one of those third down guys. He was the Lance Moore of the team. And then when he came back, the ball didn't go his way. It's like they didn't have any targets for him at all. The only time I ever seen him really have the ball was that play when he was supposed to throw the ball to Alvin Kamara. It was wide open and he overthrew him. I don't know if this is the case with Callaway or not, but it just seems like to me like he's in somebody's doghouse, because how do you go from getting 4 to 5 targets a game to 0 to 1 per game? I just don't know. But I don't know what's going on with that, but they need to get these other wide receivers involved. They need to get the ball into the hands of guys like Traquan Smith, ball into the hands of Callaway. These guys are going to have to step up and they're going to have to win their matchup. It's just weird to me that a guy like Callaway, who was getting first team snaps last season, is on the sidelines while guys like Kevin White out there. I mean, I just don't know. But anyway, these guys are going to have to step up in this game. As far as the offensive line is concerned, we got Trevor Penning. He's been activated, and also Bradley Roby has been activated off the IR. So both of these guys have opportunity to play today. I don't know how many snaps Trevor Penning is going to get, but I'm pretty sure the Saints are probably going to get him in, maybe in some jumbo packages, red zone situations. Maybe you'll probably see Trevor Penning out there. Heck, maybe the Saints were very impressed at what they seen in practice. He'll probably get more snaps than we think that he will. But if Bradley Roby comes back, that's going to be huge. We know that he, along with Marshawn Lattimore in the cornerback room, they came back to practice this week. Lattimore isn't exactly ready to play. I expected him probably to come back and play sometime maybe next week. But if you can get a guy like Bradley Roby playing in the nickel and playing on the outside, maybe alternating between him and Alontae Taylor, he and Paulson Adebo, it can be effective going into the game versus the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the question on everyone's mind is, who is going to win this football game? Who is going to win this game? As much as the Saints need this football game, I just do not like this matchup for the New Orleans Saints, especially when they're going up against a guy who knows how to coach. The last couple of weeks, the Saints have been completely outcoached by, the opposition. You look at John Harbaugh, they got outcoached. You look at Mike Tomlin, they got outcoached. Even though Sean McVay is a Super Bowl winning coach, a couple of things went on the side of the New Orleans Saints. Matthew Stafford leaving the game, having a guy like Perkins come in to back him up. It kind of fell into the hands of the New Orleans Saints. Who knows what that game would have been like if he would have stayed in. Luckily, we don't have to think about that. But when it comes to Kyle Shanahan, we all know that this guy knows how to coach a football team. He knows how to exploit your weaknesses, and it's just going to be a little bit too much for the New Orleans Saints, in my opinion. I got the Saints losing this football game. Once again, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that last week was an indication of things to come, but I highly doubt that. The 49ers are on a mission. it would not surprise me if the 49ers are the team that's representing the NFC in this year's Super Bowl. They're that good. The Saints are going to have to be focused and dialed in if they're going to win this football game. And they have to win this football game because, to be quite honest with you, for all those people that's holding on to those playoff hopes, those very, 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 very dim, slim playoff hopes, this is the game that you need to win, because if the Saints don't win this game, you pretty much got to say lights out for the 2022 season, and we need to be looking forward to what's going to be going on in 2023. But I would love to hear from you. What do you all think about this Saints 49ers game? What are your keys to victory? What do you think the Saints have to do in order to stay competitive? Or what do you think the Saints got to do in order for them to get over this hump? Comment down below, like and share this video. This has been the State of the Saints podcast. Please subscribe to the channel. YouTube.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. Also, Facebook.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. Previous episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Anchor FM. Till next time, all I got to say is